everyone, Andrew here, and welcome to today's video, which is going to be about my Atari 2600 video game collection. Now, I'm not sitting in my normal spot on the couch, which is directly to the right of me, because all of my Atari 2600 games are actually on that couch, and I have quite a few of them. So I'm kind of sitting off to the side today, so that I can just kind of grab a stack of them off the shelf and talk about them. The reason I actually have them all out is because I had someone who was asking me about my collection. They wanted to see a few pictures of the Atari 2600 games that I have. So yeah, I got them all out, took a few pictures of them, and I said, you know, while they're out, I might as well make a video, since Atari 2600 games are quite interesting. I mean, not even just the games themselves, but, you know, the cartridges they come in, and there's so many variants of some of the games, so I thought that it would be quite an interesting thing to talk about on video, especially if you don't really know too much about the different kinds of 2600 games out there. My collection of Atari 2600 stuff is by no means absolutely massively incredible. You know, not like my NES collection right here, which is, you know, approaching kind of the end. There are just thousands and thousands of Atari 2600 games. Because of course there wasn't really any, like, you know, official line that you had to go through to get a game produced for the Atari 2600. If you had the equipment in your basement, you could just make them and sell them at your own will, because there was no lockout or anything like that. So there are a lot of really interesting things here, and yeah, for that reason I thought that it would kind of be fun to go over some of them. So without further ado, let me grab the first stack off of the couch here, bring that over here, and let's go through it. All of my Atari 2600 games are pretty much in alphabetical order, so that's why I'm trying to kind of have everything in nice orderly stacks here. Let's hope that everything does not fall apart. Also, I hope that things show up well on the camera. And the first game we are going to be showing here is Adventure, and this is a typical official Atari 2600 games. You have the name on the end there, which is nice. You have that there. You have kind of the cover on top, so that, you know, dust doesn't get in when you're not playing it. And yeah, there were a few different variants of the official Atari 2600 games. Some of them had a picture on the front, some of them were all just text, some of them kind of had a silver border, and we'll see a whole bunch of those different kinds of things as we go through it. But yes, Adventure is an example of an official Atari game. And then you have games like here. I guess this should technically be D, but it kind of starts with A. It's the Activision Decathlon. I can say triathlon, Decathlon. You know, the thing where you do a whole bunch of things, probably 10 things. And yes, this is kind of a typical Activision cartridge. You have it's super colorful. Has, like, you know, a colorful border which can vary in color, and you have kind of a picture of the game there. And yeah, that is a typical Activision game for the Atari 2600. Now here we have a really interesting one from Data Age. And this is Airlock. This is another kind of variant of cartridge where it kind of has a triangular shape at the end. And this one does not have any kind of dust cover. And yes, that's another kind of thing there. And then we're back to the official Atari stuff again. So we have Air Sea Battle. I'm going to try not to take too long on these because I have at least 200 games here. And yeah, if I spend, you know, hours on each one. But I just want to kind of introduce, you know, each of the different, you know, cartridge types as we get to them. Asteroids, another kind of official Atari game. We have Basketball, not much to say about that. Here is another variant of an official Atari game, like I was saying. This is Battle Zone, and you can see it kind of has a silver border there with a picture in the middle. So I believe this came after the ones like this. So I believe, I think this was kind of like the second variant of Atari label, and this was kind of the third. There was a lot of variants, and I'm not as big of an Atari 2600 nerd as I am an NES nerd, so please feel free to correct me in what I am saying here. But from the research I have done and from what I have collected here, these are the things that I have gathered. Here's another Activision game right here, Brainstorming. As you can see, it has the picture in the middle with a colorful border, which varies from game to game. Here we have Beam Rider, also an Activision game, except this one has a much different cartridge. And you will see, not all Activision games have that colorful border. Before they started that, they had a different kind of label too. So there's just so many different crazy things that were done here. With Atari 2600 games. Here is an official Berserk for Atari 2600, and here, I almost dropped it, and you can kind of see you have the green end there, and then here we have another copy of Berserk. Now this is the Sears one. I hope, is it kind of focusing there? You can see at the very top there's kind of a square that says Sears in it. And yeah, that is kind of, you know, the one that was released by Sears, and it's funny how they kind of, you can kind of see that even though they're the exact same game, with the exact same cartridge design and everything, the labels actually vary a little bit. Now, you'll find that a lot with Atari 2600 games, where even if the cartridge design isn't different, the labels themselves will be minorly different. Sometimes there can be 3 or even 4 variants for each game. And since Atari 2600 games generally aren't worth very much, and I mean, if I went to go trade them in somewhere, I'd probably get, like, you know, not even 10 cents for a game like this, because some of them are just so common. I just keep variants like that, because, you know, it doesn't hurt to have them in my collection, and again, I mean, they're not really worth anything for trade-in or selling, so I just hang on to them. And I think it is kind of interesting, though, just to see that 2 games have, you know, different labels like that. It's kind of interesting. So I just hang on to those. Next up is another kind of variant. So here we have official Atari Bowling, and then right here, we also have official Atari Bowling, but this one does not have kind of a picture on the front, and this version came before this version, so that's kind of why I was saying this is kind of like the second main version of official Atari games, and this is the first, where it was just kind of very basic text, without any kind of picture or anything like that, with some instructions on the front on kind of how to set up the game so you can play different modes. Here we have Breakout, game a lot of people should know, and by Sega, you know, before the Master System was even a thing, we have Buck Rogers, and Sega has their own kind of version of the cartridge. This is pretty neat, and even has Sega kind of engraved on the back there. Well, it's actually not engraved, it's kind of sticking out, but you know what I mean, so we have that. Might as well grab the next stack. Let's try not to take too long on this one, because I think a lot of the cartridges we have seen here are things we have seen already. From Data Age again, we have Bugs, my bad. Okay, no, there's a cartridge variant we have not seen. From Spectra Video, we have Bumper Bash. Now, these are really interesting cartridges. You have kind of rounded edges there. You have kind of a bumpy kind of feel on the back. And you have your label there. Unfortunately, there's kind of like 2 holes on the sides. And we'll see that with a few Atari games, where even like official Atari carts have a hole kind of in the middle, and things will sometimes get punched through, so it kind of sucks, and it makes label damage kind of a common thing. But yeah, that's a variant of a cart right there. We have Casino, official Atari game. We have the official Carnival by Sega. So this is another kind of variant of cartridge, and these ones were actually made by Coleco. I don't know if you can read that there. But yeah, these kind of white, cream-colored cartridges, even though they're made by Coleco, it throws people off a lot, because, I mean, it even says Coleco on the end there, so people see them like, oh, yeah, it has to be a ColecoVision game, but it's not. It's a Coleco cartridge made for Atari 2600. I mean, this... it's like PlayStation making discs that work on Xbox One. It's really funny. Also, once again, we have Carnival. Actually, I believe that there was a bit of a variant here. Yes, there was. I mean, very minor, but again, I didn't have any point in getting rid of it. As you can see, underneath of Carnival, the Sega on one of them is white, while it is yellow on the other one. So yeah, big difference. It's the exact same game, but whatever. We have Centipede, silver official Atari cartridge. I really need to pick this up. Almost 10 minutes in, and I have a lot to go. Spectra Video, once again. China Syndrome. Chopper Command from Activision. We have Circus Atari, from Atari, of course. Right here, okay, here's a fun one. Here is a fun one. So, we've talked about these. So, this is official, this one came first, this one came second. But, so have a look at this. Okay, so I can put this one down, because everyone's seen this one a million times. But now I'm going to bring this one up, and look at how this one varies a little bit. As you can tell, the text on the front is a little bit different, but also if you go to the bottom, you can see that this one is actually numbered, because way back in the very beginning, Atari was actually numbering their games, kind of like you can see on like VIC-20 games and games for a few other consoles. So, again, this is actually even earlier than this one. So I say this is kind of like the first version of the game. There's actually even a little bit more back. It's still the basic text, but they number it, which is actually really cool. So this is Atari 2600 game #1, the very first Atari 2600 game. So I mean, even if you have this version of Combat, you can still get one, you know, back when they were actually numbering them. And then eventually, once they realized that there were like 7 gajillion Atari games, they stopped doing that. But I just find it so interesting that, you know, they actually used to number their games like that. Wouldn't it be convenient if NES games were numbered and you could just put them all in order? That'd be really cool. Next up, we have Cosmic Arc. Possibly the Arc from Sonic Adventure 2. No, probably not, but that would be pretty cool if it was, because that would be years before Sonic Adventure 2 even came out. We have Cosmic Creeps. I almost said Cosmic Capers for some reason, even though I knew it was Cosmic Creeps. And we have Crackpots, which is an Activision game. Okay, next stack. Here we go. Let me do that. Let me do that. Okay, let's pick up the pace. We have Cross Force from Spectra Video. We have Dig Dug from Atari. Game I'm sure a lot of people know. We have Defender, and we have Defender. There's a minor difference there. Let me make sure my finger's out of the way. Can you find the difference? It's very minor label variant there, but I kept it anyway. Demons to Diamonds from Atari. Dodge 'em. Dolphin from Activision. Donkey Kong on a Coleco cart, even though it is for Atari 2600. Donkey Kong Jr. And here is another variant of official Atari. So, I mean, it started with just the black with text. Then it went to the picture. Then it went to the silver outline. And then it went to kind of a red border. So, as you can see, we have kind of official Atari 2600 red border Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. right there. So, I mean, even, like, I mean, it's one thing when, you know, different companies have different variants, but then when one company alone has 4 or more variants, it's just kind of funny that, you know, things change that much. But, I mean, the Atari 2600 was around for quite a while. Here we have a different cartridge variant from Imagic, and this is Demon Attack. And even they weren't free from, you know, the craziness of changing their labels, because I'm guessing that the one without the picture is probably the older one, and then eventually they decided to add a picture on it for more, you know, appeal from people. I did not just drop them. Thankfully, Atari 2600 games are pretty powerful. No, that was a bad move, Andrew. Bad move, man. This is why I like it when I sit on the couch, because the couch and the footrest kind of act as, you know, a shield in case I fumble things, which I sometimes do, but luckily no damage was done. And Desert Falcon. Next stack. Let me bring this over here. Gotta be very careful. And we have Enduro from Activision. And we have everyone's favorite game, E.T., but we don't just have one E.T. or 2 E.T.s. We have 4 copies of E.T., and I have more lying around somewhere. Now, E.T. is kind of a funny case. I mean, it's just such a bizarre game, and I mean, it has that kind of following, and, you know, it's not a good game, but, again, just because, you know, Atari games are worth only a few cents if you ever try to trade them in or sell them, I just see how, like, whenever I pick up a copy of E.T., I just hang on to it for fun. Like, sometimes you'll buy, like, you know, a box of Atari 2600 games, and there'll be a couple copies of E.T. in it, so I just hang on to them. Because, I mean, it's like, why not? You can never have too many copies of the game that some people call the worst game ever, which I would never consider the worst game ever, but I just think it's kind of funny that, you know, it has that kind of following for being so bad. We have Fast Food on a really weird kind of cartridge here. Which kind of cartridge? It's Telesys, T-E-L-E-S-Y-S. It's kind of a bizarre thing there. Kind of have a grip on the end so you can pull it out, which is kind of nice. We have an Apollo game. Not Apollo Justice, but just some random company called Apollo. We have Final Approach, which is a kind of airplane thing. We have Activision Freeway. I need to pick up the pace really bad. I can see this video going on way too long. We have Frogger, of course. Very familiar game for most, I'm sure. We have Frontline. Another one from Coleco. I mean, another one on a Coleco cartridge. These cartridges right here are really bizarre. And this is Frontline right here. Kind of just have a massive picture on the front. We have Frostbite, another Activision game. Let's just pick up the rest of the stack here. We have Galaxian, very common game. Gangster Alley, and Gas Hog, which unfortunately has a massive gash out of the front there. So it could be known as Gash Hog. I'll actually have a better copy of Gash Hog. So there we go. That makes up for it. But, gotta grab this stack and bring it around. Okay. So yes, Gas Hog. Here's a game that many people should know. I don't even need, the name's not even on the front, but I mean, that's really all you need to see, and you can instantly tell that it is Ghostbusters on the Atari 2600. We have Golf. We have, from US Games, Gopher, with a kind of weird new cartridge variant here. And then we have Gorf, from CBS Video Games, and this is kind of a weird grayish-brownish cartridge. Then we have Activision Grand Prix We have Hero from Activision, but in a different cartridge variant this time. We have Ice Hockey from Activision. We have Indy 500 in one of those really old style Atari 2600 cartridge designs. We have Infiltrate from Apollo. We have James Bond 007. Heck yeah! Who needs GoldenEye when you have James Bond on the Atari 2600? We have Data Age with Journey, Escape this time. We have Joust. And we have Junior Pac-Man. I mean, you have Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, and Junior Pac-Man. It's really funny considering that Pac-Man is the game that many people say, murdered the 2600. We have Jungle Hunt from Atari and Kaboom from Activision. Awesome. So that is 4 stacks down. Several to go. Let's see how this is going to work. Next one incoming. Unfortunately, I have to place them on the floor. I should have set up a table so I don't have to bend down every 2 seconds. But hopefully it's working out anyway. Kangaroo from Atari. Keystone Capers from Activision. Activision made a lot of Atari games. Laser Blast. Unfortunately, one of the things that seems to happen to the Activision labels is they kind of get all oily and weird and they start to get dots on them, which really sucks. I'm not entirely sure what makes it do that. I mean, some of my games have gone like that, and some of them haven't. I mean, they were like this when I got them, so it's not like it's something that happened in the basement. But it's kind of weird that I guess some kind of chemical reaction. Here's a fun one. You have Mario Bros. From Nintendo. So I mean, look at that. Sega was making games for Atari 2600. Nintendo was making games for Atari 2600, and then eventually they both left and just murdered Atari, and it's kind of hilarious. And here we also have a variant of this game as well. You can kind of see the differences there. We have everyone's favorite old TV show, MASH, from 20th Century Fox, which is pretty funny. That's a pretty cool game to have. And we have, let's grab a few here, we have Master Builder from Spectravision, we have Maze Craze from Atari, we have Megaforce from 20th Century Fox, we have Millipede from Atari. Oh, and here's a couple of pretty cool games, I have to admit, I'm very happy to have. We have Miner, 2049, and the sequel to it, Volume 2. So that is really cool. And these are both from Tiger Vision. You can kind of see these are kind of interesting cartridge variants. These games are kind of rare. Overall, I mean, a lot of the Atari 2600 games I have, they really vary from, like the super common stuff to some things that are quite difficult to find. But these two are definitely pretty up there, and I'm very happy to have these as part of my collection. Because they're pretty decent games as well as far as Atari 2600 goes. So yes, very happy to have those. Next up, another variant, Missile Command and Missile Command. I'll leave it up to you to find the difference here. You might not be looking in the right place if you can't find it, although the ends make it a little bit more obvious. Just what's different there. Why they changed that, I have no idea. And we have Montezuma's Revenge featuring Panama Joe. Clearly, I am starting to lose my voice. But you know what? We have about half more to go. So let's grab the next stack and party on. We have Moon Patrol, an arcade game, which is a pretty fun game. We have Mousetrap, which you're actually going to see another variant of here. So, I mean, we have the Mousetrap on the Coleco cartridge, and these were kind of made with the Coleco Gemini in mind, which I believe I showed when I showed all my different variants of the Atari 2600 console, which you can also go watch if you haven't seen that, because, I mean, this is kind of like cartridge variants, and then there's also a million 2600 console variants. But yeah, in case it's not focused, it says, bonus cartridge included with Gemini purchase, non-refundable. So yeah, that's kind of what these Coleco white cartridges were focused around. We have Mousetrap variant right there. We have Mr. Doe. Mr. Doe by Universal. We have Mr. Doe's Castle. And then we have Ms. Pac-Man with a Ms. Pac-Man variant. You can kind of see some differences in color there. Interesting thing, this one says 1982 Atari, and this one's 1988 Atari. So I mean, just look at the span of time between these two releases. I've always found that quite funny. And we're still trying to take down Nintendo without much success. Nexar from Spectravision. We have Night Driver. And we also have another version of Night Driver on a new cartridge form from Telegames. You might remember I had an Atari 2600 variant, a console variant, called the Telegame system. And that is kind of what these were focused on, even though they will really work on any Atari 2600 console. But yes, you kind of just see the variants that you have there. And Telegame's games are numbered just as the very original Atari 2600 games were. Oink from Activision, Othello from Atari, and Outlaw from Atari. Let me see here. Make sure I get all those back, like that. And we have everyone's favorite game. We have Pac-Man, and even though it's a little beat up, we have a variant of Pac-Man. You can see this is the Sears variant again, with a few differences in color, so I decided to hang on to that. Okay, we are getting closer, but there's still quite a bit to go. So I guess we might as well keep going.